And good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Season 2 premiere of the 8 o'clock spot live on the Gryd Network's YouTube channel. I am your host / judge / moderator, Bryson Carver. Very excited to be with you on this beautiful Tuesday evening. We've got not one, not two, but three fantastic contestants to begin our Season 2. We're going to start with last year's runner-up champion, out for revenge. It is the host of the Bicoastal Baseball podcast, the co-founder of this Gryd Network. It is Mike Guido. Mike, how you doing on this Tuesday evening?
Well, I'd be better if I was coming back as the defending champ, but I am not. But it is unofficial. I will say that it is unofficial. Listen, I'm here. I'm taking no prisoners. This is I'm going full-fledged this season. Second place, as I tweeted out before, second place is unacceptable this year. I'm coming for number one.
Listen, we know those that are new to the show will find out in short order. Mike Guido is a big-time Josh Allen fan, big-time Buffalo Bills guy, along with the Cowboys,
Enthusiast.
Of course. yeah, for sure. No, listen, they are sick and tired of coming in second to the Kansas City Chiefs. They're out for revenge, out to take down the champion. We'll actually get to that later in the show. Our next contestant is the host of the Boston Sports Summit, a man who got really pissed at me after a while because he simply could not break through. Finally was able to get a win in the 8 o'clock spot. It is Tim Barnard. Tim, how you doing tonight, man? Mike's muted, Tim.
There we go.
There we go.
I'm doing great, Bryson. All I can say is that I know that if I don't win tonight, that you're still holding that grudge. So, that's just how it goes. But, I know. I can just say this. I'm glad football's back. I think my Pats look more like they will the rest of the season against the Jets than they did against Cincy. But, I mean, hey, it's okay with me because football's back, baby. It's all that matters.
And listen, we know you're a Florida guy, and you've got a Tennessee guy, Gerard Mayo, coaching you. Tennessee, the number 5 team in the country, Tim. I mean, it could get really ugly down in Neyland Stadium on October 12th. That's all I'm going to say. Moving on to our final contestant for the day, Arthur Hurst, who is a new member of the Gryd Network. Arthur, how are you doing tonight, my man?
What's going on, Bryson? How we feeling tonight?
I'm doing well. Great to have you on. Great to have some new faces on this Gryd Network. We have some comments up in here. Patrick Brown, who's a big-time supporter and contributor and writer for the Gryd Network's website. He wants to see Barry Gryd Jr. Barry Gryd Jr., the unofficial, as Mike really wanted me to say, defending champion in season 1 of the 8 o'clock spot, is not here. He will be here certainly in short order. So let's go ahead. This is week 1, essentially, of the 8 o'clock spot. Let's look at our leaderboard, and it's totally empty because nobody has done anything yet on the show. That, of course, will change tonight. Let's go to our new formatted rules for this show. So, in this new instance, the best take in a segment will get 5 points. The second best take will get 3. The third best take, only 1 point in said segment. Because we have 3, nobody's going to come home empty-handed, so that's good. Everybody's going to get something every single segment as we go. So we're back. We might as well start with America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, who fell short against the Baltimore Ravens 28-25 in Jerry World. Dallas falls to 1-2. Dak Prescott, who had an uneven first 3 quarters, didn't really do much, played a great fourth quarter, 179 yards, 3 total touchdowns, and a pass rating over 100. Alas, it was not enough to beat the Baltimore Ravens, who rushed for over 250 yards behind Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. Let's start with our resident Cowboys fan in here. Mike, is it panic time in Dallas after this 1-2 start?
Yeah, it is. I think it is. And honestly, I don't know that panic is the right word. I think it might just be acceptance that the Cowboys just aren't that good. Like that's kind of the sense that I'm getting right now. I had predicted before the season that the Cowboys were going to be the third place team in the NFC East. I did think Philadelphia and I did think Washington were better football teams. And it looks like in the early going that I'm right. They simply cannot stop the run. They're dead last in run defense. They've given up over 550 rushing yards since the beginning of the season. They are just getting run over on the field. And not only that, but offensively, they are completely one-dimensional. They can't run the football. They don't have a premier back. They don't even have a premier. They don't have an average back. Rico Dowdle, Ezekiel Elliott, Deuce Vaughn, like they are just not doing the job there. Obviously, they have Dalvin Cook waiting in the wings, but who knows what you're going to get out of him at this point in his career. Dak is going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting, and over the course of his career, when things haven't been perfect around Dak, he kind of tends to struggle. So I'm skeptical on the Cowboys. I don't see them as a playoff team right now. So, yeah, to answer your question, I would say yes, right now it's panic mode.
It's funny you said earlier in that little take you gave about how you picked Dallas to be third in the division. Yeah, we're 3 weeks in, but here they sit. They're tied for third place in the division with the Giants, who they're going to play obviously on Thursday Night Football behind Washington, with what a performance, by the way, by Jaden Daniels and the Philadelphia Eagles, both of which we will get to later in today's episode of the 8 o'clock spot. Tim Barnard, what do you think about the Dallas Cowboys? Is it panic mode after this 1-2 start? Your mic is still muted, Tim.
There we go. All right. Sorry. Yeah, listen, I do think that it is time for panic mode. I mean, I've been saying this since last year that they need to fire Mike McCarthy. He is a absolute bum. I think he was lucky to win that Super Bowl in Green Bay, because when you look at his offense, it's so bland. Like, you have McVay, Shanahan, McDaniel. They're making guys go in motion. They're able to get Tyreek Hill open, Deebo Samuel, Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, just for the Niners recently, wide open. And yet you have CeeDee Lamb on the outside, just chilling, getting double covered. He has to get open himself. It is one of the most bland offenses. So, listen, I like Dak Prescott. I like the Cowboys offense. And you want to say that they had a back last year, Mike? I know you said that this year they don't. They didn't have one last year. Tony Pollard was a bum last year. Listen, I know he's good for Tennessee right now, but last year he sucked. So and then too, to top it off, Mike, you brought up the defensive stats. Mike Zimmer is their DC. The dude hasn't been in the NFL since 21. He's been at Jackson State and Colorado with Deion Sanders. Then you throw him 3 games, just 3 games, and look at what's going on. It's like, I don't want to say that this team can't make the playoffs, because I think the NFL right now as a whole is not that good. So I believe that Dallas can still make the playoffs. But when looking at it, yeah, it is time for panic mode, because Jerry Jones set this team up with an awful coaching staff. You know how we make fun of, or not fun of, but we rat on all the rookie quarterbacks who are saddled up in bad places. Bryce Young, for instance.
10 seconds, Tim.
Sam Darnold with the Jets. Look at how Sam Darnold's doing now. I mean, this is the problem. When you have bad coaching, that can lead to a disaster like we see in Dallas.
No question. And that to me was the kind of the theme of week 3 in the NFL, is like, I just couldn't help but thinking, watching these games, like, where you land matters. To give you an example, like, I was actually at the Tennessee Titans-Packers game over the weekend on Sunday. A year ago, I didn't think Malik Willis belonged on an NFL field against his old team of Titans. He was excellent. I mean, he moved well. He was throwing deep balls. He was accurate on third down. So yeah, where you go does matter. And that's, I think, coaching. We talk about all the problems with the Cowboys. Coaching has seemed to come into the focus for them, really, I mean, in the entire McCarthy era. By the way, we talk about Aaron Rodgers, a lot, and maybe some of the issues he has with coaches. I mean, some of his gripes with McCarthy are justified, just in terms of, like you said, the blandness of the offense. So good points across the board. Tim, Arthur, your first ever take on this show, the 8 o'clock spot. Your thoughts on the Cowboys losing to your Ravens, by the way. Is it panic mode? Is it panic time in Dallas, Texas?
Not at all, BC. I think that, when you're America's team, everybody expects you to be America's team. You expect perfection. You expect greatness. And I mean, ever since I've been alive, you know what I'm saying? The Cowboys haven't really produced that. And so Mike touched on it, right? They've been giving up 557 yards. That's the most in the NFL, 5 yards per carry. And they've given up 8 touchdowns, right? Adding the fact that, they're 30th in rushing, 3.6 yards per carry. And so, we learned in math that, 2 negatives make a positive. But I learned in life, 2 wrongs don't make a right. And if we're daggone sure, don't make a right on the football field. And so when you think about the fact that Alvin Kamara went crazy against them week 2, Derrick Henry went crazy against them on Sunday. They're 1-2. That first game against the Cleveland Browns didn't have Nick Chubb. So could they possibly be sitting here at 0-3? But anyways, the reality is that right now they're 1-2. They can't stop the run. They can't run the ball. And when you add that in the fact that they just look defeated. Like, I understand it's 28-6, but you still had a lot of game time to play. You can't just, CeeDee Lamb, look, man, throw me the ball. I get it. But Marlon Humphrey isn't letting you get open. He's pushing you and putting hands on you again physical the minute you come off the line. And then adding the fact that you can't get by him. And if you do, you have another guy that's waiting on you right there in the backfield. And the one time that he was able to get something thrown to him, he was able to draw defensive pass interference and get the Cowboys closer to the end zone, but you can't have this mentality of, oh, it's over. And Micah Parsons, you're the leader of that defense. You know that they're not going to be coming at you. So you need to do everything that you can to communicate to your defense, say, hey, I need you guys to have my back. I need some help out here. The defense is clearly a defense that is prone and coming together to get at the quarterback. Right, that's what they love to do.
Seconds,
but it's built to stop the run. And so when you have that, you can't have a front running attitude as well. And that's why the Cowboys are right now sitting at 1-2.
To go to your point about Micah Parsons, Arthur, it's that first drive. I don't know if I've ever seen a superstar defensive player, which Micah Parsons obviously is, just look lost. Like the touchdown that your guy Lamar Jackson ran in, Micah Parsons is trying to figure out where he's lining up, where Dallas doesn't look to be filling the gaps in that play. Like it was a rough defensive performance. I mean, Micah Parsons, by the way, this year through 3 games has 1 single sack. So it's a collective sort of lack of effort. I think it's fair to say by the Dallas Cowboys thus far. Arthur, I have to admit, 5 points, my man. I thought you had the best take this segment. I did like your sort of tie-in with the two wrongs don't make a right in the NFL. That doesn't necessarily apply to math. I liked that point. Tim, I'm going to give you 3 points. You come in second place, my man. I did enjoy your points about the lack of depth on the Cowboys coaching staff. And Mike Guido, not that it was bad. It was actually pretty good points across the board to start the season too. That's what we want to see here. But Mike, you start with 1 point here. So I'm going to have to keep the number 2 pencil to the side for a moment, at least maybe up until the second round. Looks like I got some comments up in here. Patrick Brown says, it'll be time to panic if we somehow lose to the Giants, and that this stretch of games from week 5 till Thanksgiving will tell Cowboys fans if we're a playoff contender. Our guy, Ryan Flowers, check out Clutch Sports Talk every Sunday morning. He says Cowboys are cooked. He has also some other stuff to say. Parsons is not great in the run game. Teams know how to attack Micah in the run game. There's no question about that. And I mean, some of the advanced analytics show, like Micah is, and the tape shows as well, Micah's not good stopping the run throughout the course of his career, and teams have kind of figured that out, especially given what the Packers did in the playoffs, the Saints and the Ravens last 2 weeks. So we'll see what happens with the Cowboys moving forward. Big game against the Giants on Thursday night. Let's move on to a game that happened last night with the Cincinnati Bengals falling short to the Washington Commanders 38-33. Joe Burrow, who had statistically an outstanding game, 3 touchdown passes, passer rating in the 120s, was really, really good last night. The problem is the Bengals are 0-3 with losses to Tim's Patriots. We'll get to Tim in just a moment. Losses at the gun to the Chiefs, and then Jaden Daniels having maybe the greatest game a rookie quarterback has ever played, at least in the month of September, completing 91% of his throws. The Bengals defense, I believe I saw this, 26th ranked defense in the National Football League. Start with you, Tim. Bengals are 0-3. Is their season over?
No, I don't think their season is over. Simply because you have Joe Burrow, who is arguably not only a top 5, but maybe even a top 3 quarterback in the league. You have Jamar Chase. T. Higgins just made his comeback. You have Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson on the outside. I mean, you can scrap together a pretty decent season. And not to mention, too, that they have the Panthers, Giants, and Browns 3 of their next 4 games. So let's say they lose to the Ravens for all intents and purposes, which is in between that stretch. They could be 4-4 like that, through 8 weeks. So they're right in the hunt. Plus, not for nothing, Bryson, I know you're not going to like this, but the NFC North, do you really think that the Steelers are going to be undefeated with Justin Fields? Do you think Justin Fields is going to be this superstar quarterback that we're seeing? Listen, he's been playing great. No 2 ways about it. But I feel like this division, Lamar Jackson is still trying to feel out this Ravens team right now. They nearly pissed away that Dallas game on Sunday. So there's a lot that can be said. And plus the Browns, Deshaun Watson, I'm done. I'm done with Cleveland. They're out. It's over for them. So really, it's a 3-team race for the AFC North. And that's where I kind of look at it going, okay, listen, through 8 weeks, as long as they can win 3 of the next 4, and if they can kind of upset the Ravens. And the only thing I will say about this team is, yes, you do have the issues where the Brown family are cheap as hell, and that's why Jamar Chase sat out. That's why T. Higgins sat out, plus his injury, of course. But
10 seconds, Tim.
I feel like they still have a very good chance, not winning the division, but getting into the playoffs. Even though they're 0-3, I think they can. Their season's not over. Let's put it that way.
That's fair. And, you talked about 3 of their next 4 games. The funny thing with the Bengals is because Joe Burrow got hurt in the middle of last year and they kind of faltered down the stretch, is the fact that in what is one of the, I think, bare minimum 2 best divisions in the NFL, the Cincinnati Bengals have a last place schedule. Right, so that they're not playing the big boys of some of these AFC divisional teams, such as like the Ravens are playing, that like the Steelers and the Browns are playing as well. So I think you made some really good points. To you, Arthur, I'm a Steelers fan. You're a Ravens fan. We both share a mutual hate of the Cincinnati Bengals. Are they done at 0-3? Is their season over?
Nah, man, I don't think so at all. First off, it's not a hate. Hey, Cincinnati's in Ohio. I'm an Ohio guy, so you already know that's
okay.
But like Tim said, you got Joe Burrow, you got Jamar Chase. Clearly, the LSU connection. They were both college football champions, probably part of the greatest team that ever assembled at LSU. You got that connection, but it's also, again, T. Higgins contract dispute plus the injury, and Jamar Chase sat out for the longest. And what happens when you sit out, right, and you only come back like a week or 2 before the season starts? There's no rhythm, right? There's no continuity. There's no camaraderie. You don't have Tyler Boyd, who's your third guy anymore. Add in the fact that they're 30th in rushing. What does that mean? They miss Joe Mixon. So, right now they're still trying to find their rhythm. Joe Burrow, he's still trying to find his rhythm. We don't know if he's going to have, an injury, something here and there. You saw him holding his wrist a little flaky or whatever week 1 and week 2. So this team is still trying to find his stuff, but the offense will be fine. The defense, though, is what I'm worried about. You can't give up 427 rushing yards when you're rushing for 268 through 3 games in the season. And adding the fact that deep ball to McLaren for a 31-yard touchdown to seal the game, you can't get that either, especially after a week of you talking smack about Jaden Daniels, who said is running a college level offense because he's throwing, short routes and things of that nature. 31 yards to Terry McLaurin for the win. So, yeah, man, the Bengals, they can have time to get themselves out of the abyss. So I'm not worried about Cincinnati at all.
Real quick, to the point you made about Jaden Daniels to McLaurin, that is, I think, one of the 3 best throws made in the first part of the season. Like a guy right in his face with the rush. Hits McLaurin in stride. Is a gorgeous throw. Couldn't have put it any better on the spot. From Jaden Daniels to Terry McLaurin, who's been crazy underrated for a long time. Now it looks like he's got some solid quarterback play in Washington. But listen, you make great points. Them missing Joe Mixon. The defense struggling in general. Like I couldn't help. It's another game, but I couldn't help but watching the Kansas City and Atlanta game and Jesse Bates picking off Mahomes and thinking, boy, the Bengals sure could have used that guy, especially in this situation against clearly a very talented Washington offense. Finally, to you, Mike Guido, Bengals are 0-3. Is their season over?
No, but it's close. I think it's very, very close to being over. Only one team in NFL history has ever made the playoffs after an 0-4 start. And it was back in 1992. It was the Chargers back in 1992. Only 6 teams have made the playoffs since starting 0-3, and it hasn't happened since 2018. Before that, it didn't happen since 1999. So I do think that we're getting to a point where we're kind of towing the line of, all right, now you're just kind of like it's too steep of a hill to climb. But listen, the 2 guys that went just behind me brought up a lot of great points to the point of like, okay, if there is a team that is going to be able to accomplish that feat, Joe Burrow is one of the coolest guys in the NFL. Obviously, he's one of the most accurate passers in NFL history so far in his career. He's been absolutely phenomenal since he's come back and since he's been in the NFL, since he's been healthy. Obviously, the weapons are fine. I think Art brings up a really good point because really this defense is really kind of a problem. Right. They have a similar problem to what Dallas has. They really struggle against the run. Their pass defense is hovering around average, but their rush defense is among the worst in the league as well. So they have to fix a lot of things that are obviously contributing to their 0-3 record. I know they've had some bad luck in a couple of games, but this is kind of a week. I almost consider this week for them kind of a must win. They're going on the road to Carolina. It's not the biggest challenge in the world, but that's a really high pressure situation because I know, I'm not going to be the first one that brings up the 0-4 start. I think they know that in the Cincinnati building. So I think this is extremely high pressure. It's not over, Bryson, but it's very, very close to being over.
Again, we go back to that division that they're in. We talk about the fact that the AFC, sure, you have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, one of arguably the best quarterback to wide receiver duo in professional football. But like you said, you got to, in theory, you should be able to take care of teams like the New England Patriots. No offense, Tim, and obviously the Washington Commanders with as porous a defense as they have, and for them not to get the job done to their first 3 games. Losing to Kansas City is not the worst thing in the world at the gun on a field goal, but you got to take care of these games at home against teams that are to a certain degree rebuilding. So I think you make some great points, Mike. So much so, I thought you actually had the best take in this segment. So you get up to 6 points, but Arthur with the second best take is in the lead at 8 points. Mike's got 6. Tim, you only get 1 solid take, but I did think Arthur and Mike just edge you out there. But Tim's got 4 points. Let's see what we got up in here. The comments. Our guy Tyler Hilton is in the comments. Shout out to Tyler. Our guy Ryan says 2.5% chance of making the playoffs for any team starting 0-3. And he, like you said, Mike, the 92 Chargers, the last team to do it with an 0-4 record. Let's move on to our final segment with all 3 contestants. We're going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, who eked out a win over the New Orleans Saints on Sunday, 15-12. Definitely a defensive affair. Let's just say that Derek Carr looked like Derek Carr in this game. Nonetheless, impressive win by Philadelphia in the sense that they were able to hold high-flying New Orleans Saints offense to 12 points on their home turf. Saquon Barkley, unbelievable in this game. I'll start with you, Arthur. Are you impressed? Philadelphia's had a very uneven first 3 games of the season. Are you impressed thus far through their first 3 games with this 2-1 start?
I am. The reason why is because you lose Kelsey, right? That was probably the backbone of your offense ever since Jalen Hurst got drafted. Those 2 had an unbelievable connection. And you just saw how much both of them led that offense in their own way, right? So you lose Kelsey to retirement. You lose A.J. Brown out to a hamstring. And then you lose Devontae Smith, which that was a real scary hit in the game against the Saints. You lose him out to a concussion, right? But you still find a way to get these wins. You're top 10 in passing yards and you're top 3 in rushing. And so in football, it's all about how you ink out the wins, right? That's how Baltimore was able to win. Hey, we're letting the Cowboys come back. We have to thug out these last 2 minutes, right, in order to win this game. So you got to find a way to just win the game. And when that's Saquon Barkley, right? That's why you have him right there to help Jalen Hurts out, to take the pressure off him. Because if those legs get moving, he's hard to bring out. You see him in the offseason, the weights, that goes back to college, right? Back at Penn State. He's been a big boy. Those biceps, those are mean, right? Those scare me. I wouldn't want him to run me over, even stomp on me. So I am impressed with how the Eagles have been able to float. Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurst, and that offense really doing a good job. And C.J. Gardner-Johnson, right now, he and Micah Parsons are going at it. But Gardner-Johnson's letting people know, like, hey, man, I don't care what y'all say. I'm on this defense. We legit. We're doing what we got to do. And, yeah, we're off to a 2-1 start, but it don't matter. We're still taking care of business.
When you talk about Saquon Barkley, I could make a case that if not for what I believe to be an absolutely indefensible call at the end of the Atlanta game, throwing on that 3rd down and short, you can make a case Saquon Barkley might be 1st or 2nd for MVP along with Josh Allen. Like, Saquon has been unbelievable the first few games of the season, despite Jalen's turnovers and despite this Eagles defense up until Sunday really kind of struggling to stop the pass in many ways. Go to you, Mike Guido. With Philadelphia Eagles, they're 2-1. We remember last year they get off to an incredible 10-1 start and then falter down the stretch because that close game sort of luck to a certain degree tends to kind of run out if you're not able to have some sort of second punch. Are you impressed with the Philadelphia Eagles through their first 3 games?
Not really. No. I mean, like Arthur brings up a really good point, and I make that point a lot, and I made it a lot last year, where like winning ugly is definitely a good quality to have, right? Like having these sort of trying to ink out wins just, by the skin of your teeth, even if it doesn't look pretty, you still find a way to win game. That's a point well taken. The issue that I have really with Philadelphia right now is exactly what kind of you said before. This is very, very clearly a Saquon Barkley-led football team. That is their identity. We all knew when Saquon signed there in free agency, we were all saying, oh God, that's a perfect fit in that offense. This is really going to be trouble. And it has been, right? So the fact that Saquon Barkley is dominating at the rate that he is, I think that's what their identity is. There's a couple problems with that. Saquon Barkley has not been the healthiest player over the past number of years of his career. It wouldn't surprise, obviously I don't wish this on him, but it wouldn't surprise me if at some point during the season he goes down with an injury, even if it's for a limited amount of time, and they lose that identity. And the other part of it is Jalen Hurts, I think, has taken a step back as a true thrower of the football. He's turning the ball over way too much. He's got 3 touchdown passes to 4 interceptions. This is a defense right now as well that is among the bottom third in the league overall in total defense. I just don't know that, I think Philadelphia is going to make the playoffs almost by default because of the division they play in. I think the Giants are bad. I don't know that the Cowboys are good. The Washington, I think, is decent, but they're not ready yet. Philadelphia might just win this division by default. But I think once they get into the nitty gritty of the season, they get into the dog days of winter
10 seconds,
and
Mike.
guys have, real miles on their legs. I think this could be a problem going with them going forward.
Yeah, it could be. And like you said, and Arthur sort of hit on it earlier with the loss of Kelsey. And like you said, Saquon Barkley having the injury history that he has. A.J. Brown is, knock on wood for me, comes back as soon as possible. But now that's something that is going to be at least a factor moving forward. Going to be, obviously playing, beat up over the course of the season. Listen, it's with Philadelphia, there seems to be a lot of parallels these first 3 games with what we saw last year, right? Kind of an uneven defense. Jalen turned the ball over, but the running game, and obviously the difference is, of course, Saquon getting the job done. We'll see what happens as the course of the season moves forward these next 14 games. Finally, to you, Tim, are you impressed with the Philadelphia Eagles through their first 3 games this year?
No, of course not. Because first and foremost, kind of piggybacking off of Mike's point with the turnovers, look, Jalen Hurts has the most turnovers than any quarterback since last season. They are tied right now for 31st in the league in turnover differential at -4, tied with the Raiders. And not for nothing, there have been talks already before this game on Monday night or was it Monday or Sunday night? Excuse me, Sunday. That Belichick could be coaching the Eagles. So, and this is before Sunday's game. And the reason why I bring that up is because Sirianni is a bum. The dude is an absolute loser. Look at what happened and how he was acting in that Super Bowl game pregame. And Jalen Hurts is like, bro, calm down. And he still goes out and does that. You have Sirianni. The reason why the Eagles won that game on Sunday was because Dennis Allen is almost stupider than Nick Sirianni. I mean, Sirianni passed up 3 opportunities to get field goals, to get points in a defensive slugfest. And it's funny because when you were listening to the broadcast with Greg Olsen, love Greg Olsen, the first time they passed it up, he's like, oh, okay, they're sticking to the game plan. First of all, that's why nerds are ruining sports, but he's sticking to the game plan. And then when they did it the second time, and Greg Olsen's like, all right, I can't defend that. That was just stupid. I don't know why he passed up on that. So you have Greg Olsen, telling everybody how stupid Nick Sirianni is for constantly going for it rather than take the points, and then Dennis Allen, had he just called a simple, relaxed
10 seconds, Tim.
That whole crossing would have never happened. Not to mention, if it wasn't Dallas Goedert, it was the guy crossing from left to right. Both of them were wide open. So either way, the Saints are just as stupid, but the Eagles, Sirianni's going to get fired for how just childlike he is.
Yeah, and it's funny, you mentioned the 4th down calls. So listen, there's a number of reasons like that. I argue just given the spot, and it's a detailed discussion we can get into another day, but he should have gone for in the 4th down against Atlanta, given the situation, given the field position. The second 4th down into the half, okay, let's say you get the 1st down. Buddy, there's 14 seconds you're on the 20-yard line. Nonetheless, you're going to get a field goal because you have a great kicker in Jake Elliott. I am 100% with you on Sirianni. I think there's just some clear limitations with that guy. And I simply don't think you can win a whole heck of a lot with him moving forward. But we'll see what happens with the Philadelphia Eagles. Mike, you, my friend, are moving on to the final round with 11 points. Thought it was an impressive performance on your part. And you will get to talk about your boyfriend, Josh Allen, in the final segment. So I'm very happy for you. Arthur, I actually thought you had to a certain degree, the weakest take, but just enough points to get to the final. Tim, you probably still hate me. It's okay. I get it. Just coming up short in this segment, nonetheless.
I know it's because you hate my Florida Gators. I get it.
Are we gonna have
I'm about to lose my head coach. You're the number 5 team in the country. Thanks for the thanks for that.
Yeah, of course.
Are we about to have we're about to have like a 12 episode drought for Tim again in season?
No.
Just come on the Boston Sports Show. That's all you need.
Of course. Listen, the Red Sox are floundering at the end of the season like they always do, right, Tim? And that's a here we go again. Tim, we'll bring you on at the end to get your thoughts on the final round, but solid performance by Tim Barnard. And then there were two, Arthur Hurst, Mike Guido, as we move into our final segment. The best take gets 10 points. It's that simple, okay? It's a great equalizer in this 8 o'clock spot tournament. The best take in this segment gets 10 points. The loser comes home empty-handed. Moving on to our final segment, there was another game on Monday Night Football, which, again, I'm not sure how I feel about this double dip Monday night game, 2 games going at the same time. Leave that for Sunday, okay? I like standalone Monday night games. Nonetheless, the Buffalo Bills, boy, it's a bad night for me as a Trevor Lawrence fan, trounced the Jacksonville Jaguars by a final score of 47-10. They are 3-0 on the young season, eke out a close win over the Cardinals, but then dominate the Miami Dolphins on the road, and then a desperate Jaguars team at 0-2 at home. I will start with you, Mike Guido. Obviously, you are a Josh Allen fan, so I'm sure you're chomping at the bit to get to this. Are the Buffalo Bills the biggest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC? Go.
Clearly. I don't think it's close at this point. I mean, if you look at what is going on in Buffalo right now, I mean, I don't need to explain it to you how much of a Josh Allen fan I am. I know that, like, I think Josh Allen's the second best quarterback in the league behind Patrick Mahomes. And I think that conversation's closer than people think. But here's the thing. Taking Stephon Diggs out of the wide receiver room has just relieved the confusion. It's relieved a lot of the pressure of trying to force the ball to one single guy. Throw the ball to whoever's open. Khalil Shakir looks like he's a legit receiver, right? Keon Coleman looks like he's a legit young receiver, right? You're looking at, like, Dalton Kincaid is starting to get himself mostly involved in the offense. James Cook looks like their best offensive weapon. This is a balanced defense without very many starters. They lost both their safeties. Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde are both gone. They've replaced both those guys. Taylor Rapp and Damar Hamlin are their 2 starting safeties now, which is incredible. And their defense still finds a way to be balanced. They're developing their pass rushers. This is a well-coached team. Right now, I think the Bills, I mean, you look at what they're doing right now, I just think that this is a more balanced team than it was. There's less ego in the room, I think, without a doubt. And to be honest, Kansas City, despite the fact that they're 3-0, they haven't looked outrageously impressive through 3 games. So today, I wouldn't even be shy to say that the Buffalo Bills are better than them. But again, later on in the season, they have to prove that they can beat them in the postseason. But I think it's clear. Honestly, I think the top of the AFC is pretty vulnerable, and I think the Bills have really kind of taken this season in stride.
Yeah, you make a lot of fair points. And in terms of the match between them and Kansas City, don't forget the last 3 years, Buffalo's beaten Kansas City all 3 times with, I think, if memory serves me correctly, with all of them being at Arrowhead Stadium. So they proved they can win on the road in Arrowhead. Obviously, they came very close to the last 2 playoff matchups. Got to prove they can get it done in January. But listen, to your point about, by the way, first of all, before I get to your point, shout out to Damar Hamlin getting his first career interception after all that he's been through. Shout out to him. That was a really cool moment. God-awful throw by Trevor Lawrence. But nonetheless, a great play by Damar Hamlin. I got to be objective on Trevor, man. That was bad last night. But no, you bring up great points. Like, and could I ask you this, and then I'll move to Arthur. Is it somewhat analogous to when Dez Bryant was let go by the Cowboys and the pressure maybe that Dak felt to force Dez Bryant the football and some of the issues there? Is it somewhat similar between that and Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs? Is Mike there?
Oh, I didn't realize you were talking to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it is. I mean, anytime really you see, I mean, we saw it at the end of last year, Bryson. I mean, I was saying that even after the playoff game that the Bills lost last year, I was even saying it might be time to trade Stephon Diggs because you just saw it in him. The effort wasn't there in a playoff game. The effort wasn't there for Stephon Diggs. His ego had gotten bigger. I didn't know what happened. Stephon Diggs seemed like he was happy in Buffalo. He had a quarterback that was consistently getting him the ball. I didn't think that there was an issue of Diggs not getting the ball enough in Buffalo until he kind of created one. So I think it was just time to let bygones be bygones. Let him go be in Houston, where, by the way, I think his touches are going to be even more limited than they were in Buffalo. But who knows? I think that wide receiver room not being dominated by one guy actually helps that offense and helps Josh Allen even more to just kind of take the pressure off the shoulders and let him actually play quarterback.
And they have a tremendous run game. It's by far the best that Josh has had in Buffalo, so he doesn't necessarily have to be the focal point of the offense. And shout out to James Cook and that O-line as well. Moving to you, Arthur, are the Buffalo Bills the biggest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC?
I understand Mike's enthusiasm. I understand it. But, there's a guy by the name of Mike Tomlin, right?
Oh, come
on. He
on.
coaches the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's a guy by the name of Justin Fields that's underneath his coaching, right? What you see through these first 3 games is a guy that's not an athlete who's a quarterback. He's a quarterback that's an athlete. So right now you see the short throws across the field. You see Pickens being able to get open for him, but you see Justin Fields making the right decision every single time, getting the ball out quick, not putting his team in a position to lose at all. And not only that, you talk about this defense, number 2 rushing defense in the NFL, 214 rushing yards given up, 3.5 yards per carry, 0 tutties. Guess what? The Bills aren't top 10 in either of those. The 6th in the league in total passing yards given up with 550. The Bills aren't top 10 in that. They're 7th in the league in completion percentage against them with 61.7%. The Bills are number 10 at that. And right now, the Steelers have also given up 2 tutties, 4 interceptions. The Bills right now in the year have 3 tutties and 4 interceptions. But you have Justin Fields again, 73% of his passes completed for 518 yards, 2 touchdowns, and just 1 interception through 3 games. And if you keep going like this with the way we know that defense plays with TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, that's my Ohio State Buckeye right there. The way, and he is in his 14, 15 year, still going crazy. Probably could play till he's 50 with the way that he's able to just throw away these offensive linemen and get to the running back and the quarterback. If this defense this defense is going to continue to play the way they play. But the question is, can Justin Fields and Arthur Smith, when the going gets tough and they're probably down like a touchdown or a few points, can they answer the call? Well, guess what? Justin Fields answered the call with me on that game-sealing touchdown against the Chargers. I get Justin Herbert was out, but I don't care. A win is a win the last time I checked. Salute to Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Let's go, Arthur. Listen, this does not necessarily mean that you win, but dear God, that was such a great dissertation of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You got me fired. Listen, I'm thinking the Pittsburgh Steelers going to win the Super Bowl.
What's going on here?
I know what you're trying to do, but you did bring the stats to back it up. I do appreciate that. And then, listen, one thing I think is for certain, I think we can all agree on: the Pittsburgh Steelers are the best defense in professional football. I don't think that's even remotely debatable. 8 points per game given up on this season, like you said, great against the pass, great against the run. Listen, applause for Arthur. That was as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, that was beautiful to listen to. I do know you're a Justin Fields guy, but as we know, on the 8 o'clock spot, there can be only one winner on this show. So as we get the victory music going, the winner for the season 2 premiere of the 8 o'clock spot is Mike Guido, coming back to get the W today on the season 2 premiere of the 8 o'clock spot. Congratulations, Mike.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mike.
Listen, man, I think I will say this. As a co-founder of the Gryd, I would like to say that what a debut from Art Hurst. I think he absolutely knocked it out of the park. And I was afraid for a second. I really was. I was really afraid. As soon as he brought up the Steelers, I was just like, this son of a bitch, Bryson's going to give him this win. And I was really nervous there. But hey, listen, man, I said it from the beginning. I'm not here for second place. I'm here for number 1. I'm coming for the champ. I want to be the first, let me say it loud, official champ of the 8 o'clock spot.
Well, I mean, listen, we're going to open the week 2 leaderboard next week, and your name, Mike Guido, is going to be at the top of the list. So you got to come back to next week and defend your title in this week. Arthur, your reaction, I do genuinely appreciate the love, even as a Ravens fan, respect to you that you gave to the Pittsburgh Steelers, to Justin Fields and to Mike Tomlin. I will say, second, Mike Guido, unbelievable debut on your part. Shout out to you, Arthur. Thoughts on your performance today?
Nah, man, this was definitely fun. First time ever doing something like this, but hey, man, I enjoy things like this and just being able to talk sports, you know what I'm saying, especially with fellow guys who talk it as well. It doesn't need to be no discord and things of that nature. We can talk without getting disrespectful, right? And it's all about fun at the end of the day and enjoying ourselves and a passion that we all love. So thankful again to be a part of the Gryd and just growing in my craft and continue to get this thing going.
Listen, we're very lucky to have you at this network. Cannot wait to see what you continue to do with your own stuff here on the 8 o'clock spot. You're going to be outstanding. It looks like we've got Tim's got a little demonstration that he's got going on there. What does that say?
What's that? Oh, Florida Gators. Oh, believe it.
Oh, God. Yeah, see, now you just drove it in, Dave. Like Arthur took one route, you just took the exact opposite. You took the exact opposite, Tim.
That's right, because I don't back down. I don't give in.
Yeah, listen, Art's new. He hasn't gotten disrespectful yet. It'll come. It'll come. Tim's already a seasoned vet.
Arthur, when he like just makes you go all the way every single time, but then lose every single time, yeah, you'll understand. You'll start to hate the Steelers properly.
That's terrible. Listen, Tim, excellent performance on your part. Arthur, unbelievable debut for you. Mike Guido, runner-up last year, in first place for week 1 this year. We'll see it continues to progress. All I can imagine, this is going to motivate the unofficial champion, Barry Gryd Jr., to come back and make a big statement next week.
He didn't want none of this. He didn't want none of this in week 1. He didn't want it.
Listen,
he avoided it at all costs.
It was a great performance. I'll give you that, Mike. But that is all the time we have for this week's episode, the 8 o'clock spot. Be sure to catch us on this day, Tuesday, next week at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, live on the Gryd Network's YouTube channel. Big shout out to Mike Guido, Tim Barnard, and Arthur Hurst. Great performances by all 3 of you across the board, and a big congrats to Mike for opening this season as the 8 o'clock spot winner. Catch us next week as the time I mentioned, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. Cannot wait to see you then. Shout out to everybody who tuned into the show, commented on the show. Very excited to get season 2 underway. We will see y'all next week. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out, y'all.